World of Warcraft. Maybe you've heard of it. It's only the single biggest massive multiplayer online role-playing game, both in player count and content. Stupid King of the Tree, of course we all know that. So what's with the cheesy intro? Well, being one of the biggest MMOs ever in existence is actually one of the biggest problems they face in getting new players into their game, buying reoccurring subscriptions and their new expansions. Like the recently released Legion, for example. Let's face it, WoW is intimidating. They have hundreds of thousands of loyal fans that have been playing for years, and the content therein is not only dense, but nigh insurmountable. In fact, that was my exact thought process for not getting into the MMORPG at all, despite working for an MMO channel. Figure that, huh? However, times change. I just recently picked up Legion as a complete and total newcomer. For the most part, I've played a couple hours here and there. Over the course of this video, I will be sharing some of the things I learned to both help and encourage players like me who are uncomfortable with the idea of tackling such a monumental title. While these tips obviously won't be some Freemasonry secrets passed down through the generations that will completely break the code in the game to give you obscene advantages, but I think they are immensely helpful to other new players like me getting on track to simply enjoying the game, and not just fighting the confusingly specific level of controls and mechanics. With that essay of an intro out of the way, let's take a look at 10 tips you should know going into Legion as a complete newbie. So you bought this neat new expansion with that goat horn looking hippie on the front, and you think, I want to be that guy. Well, great, except that if you're unfamiliar with the game, or even starting out for the first time, this is actually more complicated than you might think. You can't actually just pick Demon Hunter at the onset of character creation. No. First, you have to create another character, and please bear with me, I know you want to be the hippie goat. Level them up to level 100 with your character boost, unless you're a masochist that wants to spend hundreds of hours to get to that point, and finally go back to character creation to create your Demon Hunter. Awesome class in the fantastic new starting zone. You may think, well, if I do that, aren't I missing a ginormous chunk of this game? Well, absolutely. But unless you want to start on thousands of hours of old content before moving on to the new stuff you just purchased, then it's best to just simply play catch up for now. Number 9.5, Double Dip. Oh, and it should be mentioned that even if you purchase Legion, you must also buy a subscription. I thought it was insane that the full price expansion doesn't come with a free month, but evidently, no expansion ever released in WoW has ever done that. So yeah. So expect to pay another $15 just to play the content you just spent $50 on. And that's not even including all the money you'll spend in the future months just to continue playing. That part sucks, but what can you do? Number 9.375, picking a name. Just a short aside here, picking a unique name is nearly impossible. If you're looking to just jump straight into the action, pick a series of otherwise unrelated words like cup, potato face, or something, and just get right in. Otherwise, pick randomize. Number 8, Auto Loot. As soon as the opening cinematic is over, and you're staring out into the dark expanse of demon territory, is when everything will hit new players over the head like a truck. These next few tips will help enlighten you of the more hidden features. One of those is Auto Loot. Instead of pressing right click just to get some junk, turn Auto Loot on and press right click once to instantly pick up everything in a small area. This is simply a more streamlined choice that keeps you playing and not fiddling around in menus. Number 7, Item Comparison. Similarly, if you're just starting out, all those numbers and effects on drops are immensely confusing, especially when the item comparison isn't shown by default, effectively leading you to guess what's good and bad. Thankfully, I found out quite early on in my WoW career that all you have to do is press shift and then hover over the item. Several pop-ups will fill the screen showcasing just what changes will come into effect and by how much, handy for quickly swapping gear. Number 6, Hotkeys and Settings. This one is much more personal preference, but should still get a look over before you really hop into playing. Take a look into the settings or interface and change the things you know you want to change. Don't recognize something? Don't worry about it. Just skip it for now and come back later when you have the appropriate knowledge. Some examples might be making sure the screen resolution and graphic settings are to your liking to get a nice stable high frame rate, rebinding hotkeys to your preference, and or turning down the master volume. The possibilities are endless. Number 5, the action bar. This goes hand in hand with hotkey selection. You may think it's normal to have items like the pet, mount, and hearthstone on the main action bar, just because, but it's not recommended. Put those and other lesser used niche abilities on a separate action bar from the main one. But what to put on the primary bar? That varies. Personally, I put all my damaging spells on the left side and crowd control or defensive spells on the right side. That way, even if I don't recognize the ability, there's so many of them, I can make a guess and generally get it right. For example, fighting regular mobs, just spam left side spells. Fighting a big bad boss that looks like it's charging up a powerful thing, use the right side spells to hopefully cancel, nullify, or defend against them. As you, I, and all of us play more, we will understand which actions to take in specific circumstances without the need to guess. Someday. Number 4, action effectiveness. Needless to say, this isn't some garbage browser-based MMO that auto-battles your way through everything. You must be on top of the core mechanics of your character and what is effective in most battles. Although keeping in mind with the previous tip, you don't have to master it yet. For example, the Legion starting character, the Demon Hunter, uses a resource bar called Fury. To build Fury, you must use a primary ability to charge it up, among other things. Many abilities in turn consume Fury. Because the skill names are numerous, and hardly anyone uses the same hotkeys or layout, it's difficult to explain how any character plays until you actually get hands-on. Thankfully, the starting zone eases you into the character gameplay, so you don't have to worry too much about that. On a slightly related note, be sure to always be facing your target and attacking. It does no good to just walk up to an enemy and stand there expecting retaliation. You must right click or target with left click and use an ability. Number 3, use the map. Like mentioned previously, WoW isn't going to hold your hand and autopath your way through the game. Utilizing the map and the quest log is the only way to stay on track. Use them often. Similarly, if you see a golden exclamation mark, it means it's time to pick up a quest. Take them often and in groups. Quite frequently, you can complete many quests at once within one area. If you're in the right location, but still having trouble figuring out what to do, I found mousing over nearby objects help. When an interactable object is near, the cursor changes to a little gauntlet instead of an arrow. Number 2, trait lines. There comes a point in every character's life where you must choose. Well, there are a lot of decisions, but this one is particularly important because it will define your playstyle. The Demon Hunter in particular has 2, Havoc, the DPS role, and Vengeance, the tank role. This doesn't turn your tune into a completely different class, but it does make a difference in the long run. Havoc is focused on damage per second. This is an assault on the front lines kind of trait. Every other class supports the DPSers, but at the same time, they must be able to do significant damage. It's a heavy responsible, but often a fun one, which is why most people pick it. Vengeance, on the other hand, is a more defensive tank role that seeks to control battles and soak up enemy damage. It's far less glamorous, but a tad easier and less hectic, in my experience anyway. For normal gameplay, just pick whichever you fancy. You'll be able to do all the things you love without too much trouble. However, and keep in mind my limited WoW experience, raiding and dungeons require much more from each player. They need to be able to extract every ounce of power to successfully pull off difficult raids. And that doesn't even get into coordination like. Just as a general heads up, if you're very interested in a very large part of the game, which is raids, you may want to pick the tank trait line because you're more likely to get picked up and succeed as opposed to the very difficult to master and heavy responsibility DPS class. Although I think you may be able to switch trait lines or something like that, I'm not certain on that. And number 1, have fun. What? What's that last tip? What is this cheesy garbage about? I bet you ran out of tips, huh? Well, kinda yes, kinda no. Having fun is absolutely something I wanted to get across. I mean, hell, you could just jump right into the game having done nothing in this video and still have a blast. You could take all these tips, do the exact opposite, and still have a great time. The point is, don't let anyone tell you how you should be having fun, which seems counterintuitive to me giving a list video guide thing, but it's not. I'm more stating how to get to the point of the enjoyment, not what you should actually be doing. In other words, don't be pressured into maxing every character, collecting all gear, mounts, pets, getting every achievement, completing every quest, joining a guild or group, raiding PvP, and whatever else like I was afraid to. Just do what you enjoy doing, which seems obvious, but it isn't. Take Guild Wars 2. I could still be grinding along in that game trying to get even my first legendary weapon, which, if you're not aware, is an incredibly time-consuming task. But I didn't. I stopped playing Guild Wars 2 because I was no longer having fun. You should go into WoW with the same mindset. If grinding out every achievement is your thing, then boy howdy, I'm not going to stop you. If picking up a quest here and there while exploring the massive world, then hell, I'll join ya. Or maybe you just want the casual social aspect and low level raiding or role playing, then go for it, man. And of course, extremely hardcore players will have high level raiding with massive amounts of maxing out and coordination or even competitive PvP. At the end of the day, have fun out there, players, and thanks for watching.